Essentially, we're speaking about the entire journey through the entire psychology of the human being, the entire character refinement that we're going through during these 49 days, going through our personality with a fine-toothed comb in order to refine all the negative energy and the negative qualities. And essentially what we're doing is we're going through what's called the 7 lower spheres. We're going through the entire system of the spheres and all the components of the spheres. And I want to give an entire overview today of the spheres, which is essentially for many people like a mysterious Kabbalistic word. But there's nothing more practical and relevant in your life than knowing what these are, because this is the entire way that you think and operate. It's your operating system. So if you can tap into the operating system, then sure, thank you. If you can tap into the operating system, then essentially you're able to use it for positive. And the operating system has 2 parts. It has the part which is when it's functioning at 8-cylinder, full, force, positive, and then there's the hijacked version. And we'll call that the powers of the dark side. Because the dark side also has these powers and attempts to hijack your operating system and thereby use it not for positivity, but for selfishness and negativity. This operating system essentially is the way that God creates and sustains the world. And it's known as the 10 spheres. And we'll discuss today the 10 and then also the lower 7 Mirz Hashem. This is really a shir that should take 6 or 7 hours, if not days, if not months, if not years. But we'll try to cram it into just a few minutes today, because this will then bring us back into the Omer of every day, the journey that we're going through in our purification. So the operating system was given to Adam, and it was given in the soul that was blown into him. Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chaim, and a living soul was blown into Adam. That is, the soul is the technology of the 10 spheres. And thereby that let Adam become like God in so much that just like God creates and runs the world through the spheres, now Adam has the ability to create and run worlds. The problem was, there was somebody else in the garden, known as the Nachash, HaKadmoni. And the Nachash is the representation of the dark forces that is essentially trying to hijack the positive system to have each one of those powers be used towards negativity. Okay? I'm going to go through an analogy today from Rav Meislish, an exceptional analogy. He brings it in his Sefer about Rosh Hashanah, that essentially gives an unbelievable analogy of how the 10 spheres work, but presenting it in a way of a story of Adam. Thank you, Mamish. Tizkele mitzvahs. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol ni b'dvaroi. Amen. Essentially, the story is the following: that there was a group of people that were essentially barbaric. And the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos already says that you should really pray for the well-being of government, holy government, a kingdom of goodness, because if there's no vision for humanity, then humanity will just sink into idol worship, as the world did. As the world did for almost 2,000 years. The world sank deeper and deeper into idolatry, into abominable behavior, because there was no guiding force to set up a vision for humanity. Essentially, the first person to set up that vision was Avram Avinu. And his vision came as he was building this kingdom for Hashem in the world against the popular opinion of everybody. That's why Avram is called Avram Ivri, because Ivri means the Jew, but it also means Me'aver Hanahar. He was standing on the other side of the river. The entire world was standing on one side, claiming they had the truth. And Avram, the single Jew, was standing on the other side. And he says that idolatry is not it. And he began to teach the Yekara B'Shem Hashem, and he called out in the name of Hashem, and he started building this kingdom. And essentially what we're talking about here is a king who has come to a place and he sees that there's still barbarism in the world, like actual, like hardcore idol worship, and he wants to set up a vision for a better future, for those people. So look what it says. And when the king arrives in this place, he sees that there's no governance whatsoever. It's just survival of the fittest, more or less. And therefore he decides, and we're going with a king of goodness, a king of love, of benevolence. For many people, they have a warped vision of king. They think of, I don't know, some drunken King Edward the something, with like eating limbs, ripping them off a live animal or something. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about King Solomon. We're talking about great, great, noble, righteous. We're talking about Mashiach, essentially, who wants to just give good for humanity. And that the whole world will recognize Mashiach as being the greatest visionary of love and peace for the whole world. So this king comes to this place, and he sees here that everything's a mess. And the world is in darkness. And he says that I want to be able to provide a vision for this kingdom. Basically, that's what government is trying to do, but we're talking about the king of goodness. He's trying to then now give goodness, provide services, provide opportunity, provide wealth, goodness, through the unbelievable wisdom of the king. And to give them everything that would include to be part of this kingdom. Everything, all the good, the greatest good for all those people that are there. This concept of that vision is called Chokhmah. It's the first of the spheres, without speaking about Kesser right now. Chokhmah means the vision, the absolute vision, that the king sees a problem. He sees that there's great darkness that's befell this situation. He sees disarray and chaos, and he has a vision to create order and blessing and prosperity and a vision and encourage people's talents and art and music, all the good things, and to allow that to flourish. That's called Chokhmah. So the first thing the king thinks about is now, after he sees the vision, and in that vision everything is there. He already sees the beauty, what this could be. He sees roles for people, and they're working towards something great. The next part of the vision is he starts meditating who would be the appropriate minister. Who would be the appropriate minister that I could put in charge of this great project? Who would be the one that would be worthy of my closest advisors, that has the feel of the kingdom, who's been loyal to me all these years, that would be the appropriate one to carry this out? Who could put this on his shoulder, of the building of such a project? Not only that, who will be loyal to this? That somewhere in the middle he doesn't just hijack the whole thing, start printing money for himself and his buddies. Who actually will want to build this in a truly ne'eman v'yoshar, straight, trustworthy. And he also has to be someone who's wise himself, who can understand all the greatness of what it means to build a kingdom of goodness with all of its perfection. And he's thinking and he's meditating on all those that would be the appropriate person for the job. And then in his mind, he sees the one that would be appropriate. This sphere is called Bina. The entire meditation on what, after the vision of Chokhmah, what would be the way that I would start actualizing this project. What would be the best way to take my Chokhmah into actuality in the best possible way? And the person himself, that he could figure things out one from the next. What does he do then? He brings that chosen, loyal minister to him, and he starts imparting him all the secrets that he knows as the king. He gives him all the secrets. He gives him access to the king anytime that he needs. He has like one of those bat phones that you call whenever he needs. He has direct access to all the vision of the king, that he could ask his advice anytime that he might be in need. And he also has full trust in this great advisor, this great sage, that they're so deeply connected, and they share the vision now, both together, the vision of building this kingdom, that in a certain way you're not even sure where the king ends and the minister begins, and the minister ends and the king begins. He's given over the entire energy and access to this person. This is called Das. This is Das. It's essentially now the transfer of the vision to the apparatus of actualizing the vision. And there's an absolute connection. Das always means connection. Like the Torah says, "Va'odam yoda es chave ishtay," and Adam knew his wife. It means they were having intimate relations. Knowing means that they're so deeply one. There's a direct transfer. There's a unification in energy, unification in vision. This is Das. That's the upper three spheres. Spheres Ha'omer now is beginning the lower 7 spheres, at which point the king himself is essentially now removed from the story. Now you pick up with the minister moving forward. You hear where we are now? The king is the vision of the story and the transfer of the vision, but now we've actually transferred the vision into the apparatus of actualizing the vision, which is essentially the lower limbs of the body, moving from the neck down. And if you really meditate on this analogy is nifla b'yoser. So now, what happens? That very minister begins his work. He begins the work to bring out the vision of the king. And remember, the vision, the entire mission was a vision from the king. So he's coming in the name of the king. B'shem Hashem naseh v'natzliach. And he realizes that I want to make sure I leave nothing out of the vision. And the king himself wants to make sure that the minister doesn't leave anything out. And therefore, what do you think the king grants him access to? He grants him access to all the treasure houses of the king. He grants him access to all that he might need, all the resources. I don't know, like the local, Maybach yacht that he might need to transport goods. Whatever the king has to his disposal, he gives him full access codes to all the resources that this minister would need in order to begin to give to the kingdom and to build up the kingdom in the best way possible. He gives him keys to the Ginzei Oitzroisav, keys to the royal treasure houses, and he gives him access to all of his money. The way that Avram Avinu gave Eliezer access to all the riches of Avram Avinu when he was seeking a wife for Yitzchak. That he was giving him that you come in the name of Avram Avinu. So this minister has access to everything that he might need. And he allows him every single detail that he might need that will help you in the greatest way possible. He gives him the American Express black card and says, just do what you need to do. Because remember, he only chose this person because he's loyal and trustworthy, and he has all that he needs. And the king gives him other ministers, and he gives him other people at his disposal, and managers and middle managers, everything, whatever you need. And workers and people that will help you, builders and architects. Whatever you need, you now have at your disposal. And he opens up to him great, great secret chambers that he can go into, which talk about the secrets of what the king knows about building kingdoms, secrets that he received from his ancestors of building of beautiful kingdoms, for the very purpose of him continuing and building this kingdom of goodness and helping to bring out the world from paganism. Now, of course, this is the step called chesed. That's the sphera of chesed, is that Hashem provides resources necessary for the task at hand. Now, afterwards, what do you think happens? Well, people see that this minister has access to a lot of good stuff. So immediately afterwards, he realizes, obviously before, even in the world of Chachma, but there are those that are jealous. There are those that are jealous that he is the one that's been given this task. There are others who maybe wish that they were given the task of creating the kingdom. There are those that maybe want to even usurp the building of this kingdom. There are others that are trying to get into it for their own financial benefit. They want to cut deals with this person. They say, if I print the money, then you'll give me stuff like this. And he says, no, that's not how this works. This is a kingdom of goodness. So there's going to be success and abundance for everybody. This is not, a few people at the top. This is going to be good for everyone. There's going to be peer-to-peer. Yes.
Yes. Chesed number 4 or number 10?
Chesed is number 4 when you go from up to down, or it's number 1 when you go from beginning at the spheres from Chesed down. So now we're moving, and the king gives this minister the authority that if there are those that you see in the kingdom that are beginning to be taken by evil, selfish motivations, you have the authority to be able to remove them. You have the authority to be able to fire them from their job. You have the authority to give somebody else the position. You have the authority to give them a punishment. If they're trying to do something selfish, if they're trying to usurp, if they're trying to steal profits for themselves, then you have the authority, because you come in the name of goodness, to be able to use your authority. That's called Gevura. Gevura is that God gives the authority to be able to stop those things which are bad and evil. Essentially, a righteous judge is supposed to be the symbol of din, of holy Gevura. Now, at this point, we have the kingdom is being built. And we also have law and order, if you will, which is Gevura, which is din. Is that if there are those that are threatening goodness, then there's a system of law and order in the kingdom. But the king also wants to make sure that not only is the technical kingdom running properly and that people have the resources, but the king wants it to be the most beautiful expression of a kingdom possible. The king wants that everyone should have the most beautiful life and the most beautiful opportunities and the most beautiful buildings and the most beautiful trees, the most beautiful durian fruit smoothies, the most beautiful stuff in the kingdom. Everything should be beautiful. People have access. The money should be beautiful. Gold, bullion. Everything should be gorgeous. The places of worship should be beautiful, gorgeous. And therefore, the next phase in the journey is that the king ensures that the minister has all of the resources and the wisdom to beautify the kingdom. To beautify the kingdom in all of its beauty, in all of its splendor. Mamish, beauty. That anybody would come to the kingdom would say, this is the most beautiful kingdom. It's beautiful. The people are beautiful. The people are beautiful. Which would include nutrition classes and kosher yoga experiences and cold plunges and all sorts of, Wim Hof breathing sessions for people. Everything to create more beauty in the kingdom. Everything. That is called Tiferes. Tiferes. The beautification now of the kingdom. But that's not the end of the mission. In a certain way, you might say that's the end of the mission. But the Sar, the minister, wants to make sure that this kingdom is not just here temporarily. So the next mission of the kingdom is to ensure that the kingdom can continue. That there's going to be continuity of the kingdom. And that if people threaten to come and destroy the kingdom, because they don't want to just steal the booty, and they're not interested in a vision of a beautiful world, then he has set up what's called Netzach. The powers to be able to keep continuity. Netzach means eternity, and it also means to be victorious. The powers to continue the vision. That this should be something not for 1 or 2 days, or 1 or 2 years, or 1 or 2 generations, but this could be a vision of goodness going into eternity. This is all the Messianic story, by the way. At that point, the next phase in the journey is, exactly as this is all being revealed, bad bevad, which means exactly in proportion, the world starts acknowledging how good what they have just received is. They see the beauty of this. They acknowledge that in the beginning, maybe there was resistance because we're used to our idol-worshipping paganistic ways. But the vision that the king will teaches us, and he shares with us. This education is put to the top. Which is an amazing thing that Jews have been literate for thousands of years. Almost 100%, thousands of years. That the value we place, and that having public education for all is so Jewish, that the wisdom we're trying to share with the world, these are real Jewish values. And the world starts acknowledging the beauty of this kingdom, and more people want to come to be in the kingdom. They realize how much better their life is. And they realize everyone starts being, whenever there's prosperity, healthy prosperity for all, people's talents start coming out, creativity starts flourishing. Music starts becoming beautiful. Stable money. People start doing beautiful things because they actually have the space to express their soul. Then what happens as the next phase? That now the kingdom starts just giving all the goodness, and the community starts just receiving like, this is amazing. So that's called Hod. Hod is when the whole world starts seeing the greatness of the entire system in its entirety. And then when the system is now transferring all the blessing to the people, power to the people, and the people are just, long live the king, that's called Yesod, is the transfer of all the goodness and all the pleasure. Yesod is absolute pleasure. That there's nothing more pleasurable than having this amazing life of vision and goodness. And at that point, that allows the final part of the story to be seen in its entirety. That's called Malchus. This is what the 10 spheres are. This is the way, the vision of creating a world for humanity that's good. During these 7 weeks of the Omer, you are actually refining this entire process. We're going to be going into more of the details of this process. We should have the great merit. Meditate deeply on this sequence, because within this analogy is all the secrets of the universe, of the technology and the software of how to create a good world for humanity and make good decisions and allow visions to come from potential to actual. This is the technology. We should be zoicha, mamish, to activate all these spheres for good, not let them be hijacked from the dark side, but to use them for good, for peace and for blessing, to see the great, great kingdom of Hashem, for all of humanity to recognize. We should be zoicha to this. We should see Mashiach Tzidkeinu return with all of the returning of all of the exiles once and for all. B'mhera v'yameinu. Amen.
Amen.
Have a wonderful day, my friends.